John. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing really good. How are you doing, Rachel?
I'm doing good. Did you have a good week?
Yes, it was a good week. It was very busy. Just a lot of school going on. I mean, we had classes Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday in the afternoon as well as work. So it can just be a long, busy kind of day and schedule. So
Yeah. Well, that's good. So nothing too drastic.
Nothing too drastic. I mean, things are going relatively okay. I mean, the job's going fine. Being married's going great. You definitely learn more about yourself through that.
Right.
But it's good though. And then as well, just school's going fine. Just busyness. It can be hard
Busy time of the semester.
Oh, yeah, it can be just hard to get to things and just feel relaxed.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, so the last time we met, we went over a few assessments and inventories, and I got the results back. I looked over some things. I just wanted to share them with you today, and we'll see what your thoughts are on them.
Okay.
The first one that we did was the BDI-2, the Beck Depression Inventory.
Mm-hmm.
And so lots of these questions, or not really questions, but I guess like feelings, like such as sadness and you scored zeros on, saying that that doesn't really apply to you. But I was gonna just kind of touch base on some things that you did rank as a number. So the second one, number 2, is pessimism. You ranked it as a 1, saying, I feel more discouraged about my future than I used to be.
Yes. I always feel, and I get this feeling a lot, especially with school. It can be just really tedious for me and difficult because I always get concerned with the future and I worry about it. And it's not all the time. It just kind of comes in waves.
Right.
So I'll go a week or 2 weeks being fine, and then kind of just a day I kind of feel down in the dumps a little bit, just thinking about all the different possibilities and whether or not I'm going to be successful or not. Because like I said, to be in a family, I'd like to be more supportive than I am right now. Just doing work and school, you don't have necessarily the time to be as financially stable. So I think for the future, it can be kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
And then as well, what if I do college counseling and I really like it? And that would be great, but what if I get there and I don't like it? And
right.
So I kind of just think about all the possibilities. Maybe if I do school, if I'll like that one.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing, kind of same scenario that replays.
Right. Lots of choice. The impact that your choices right now will make on the future, kind of.
Yeah, and that feeling definitely weighs on me. And it can be a little bit tedious. Maybe not tedious, but I think debilitating in a little bit of a sense.
Okay.
So at least the days it happens.
Do you think that when you feel more down and more do you think that that's when you might have a lot going on that day, or do you think your schedule kind of impacts that? Or
yeah, I think it's just different experiences in that day might make me feel like it. Like maybe at work I'm doing a lot of different stuff and not getting paid necessarily that much for it, and it can kind of make you feel like, well, maybe I'm not worth that much, or and then it makes me kind of doubt, well, what if this isn't the right decision? Or maybe someone says something to you that just doesn't hit right, and then it kind of makes you think, and you can kind of weigh on that a lot. So
yeah,
I think it's a lot of that.
Okay. A lot of information. Good job. So failure, you ranked that as a 0. pressure 0.
Yeah, I had a difficult time with some of them because I felt like some of them went kind of 0 to 60. I would say a lot of things on this I feel at different times, but maybe not to the extent of the way it kind of worded it. So
like, you think that there maybe should have been different intervals of choices to choose from?
Maybe like a few more intervals instead of 4, and maybe worded a little bit differently. Because it sounded like it went from like not at all to kind of like almost drastic in a sense.
Right.
And it got kind of more severe as it went. So I think that was kind of difficult to kind of figure out how to answer them.
Do you think it was fair to, so like this, you have to think of the past 2 weeks, including the day that you took it. So like, do you think that's kind of a fair amount of time to look at it, at these things, or?
I think it is and it isn't. So like, I mean, you could almost say it on a day-to-day basis if you really wanted to, because I experienced so many different things during the day that I could almost do one of those every day.
Right.
So, and sometimes it can be hard with 2 weeks because sometimes I might forget something about something or something comes up, but I think 2 weeks is pretty fair, but I think you could also do it on a shorter time frame, too.
Okay. Cool. All right. So the next thing that punishment feelings, self-disclosure, those were both 0s. But then when you get to self-criticalness, you rank that as a 1, saying, I'm more critical of myself than I used to be.
Yeah. And I think that kind of ties in well with the pessimism, because a lot of the self-criticism I can do is whether I'm really, like, good enough, and kind of that idea I was talking about. And it just comes from different stuff, whether it's schoolwork, or maybe I don't do well on an assessment like that I want, and I can kind of beat myself up over it.
Right.
And kind of dwell on it. I think probably for a little bit too long than I should. And as well as, like, different job things, too, because, like, it can be really easy to be critical of myself and whether I'm making the right decision. And I think that kind of pertains to the future as well.
Yeah.
So I thought when I was filling that one out, was thinking of the same thing about the future and whether I'm making the right decision or not, and how that kind of tied into them both.
Right. Absolutely. I can definitely see where those correlate. All right. Well, cool. So, on the back side, let's see, we have agitation, no, not so much. Loss of interest. You rank that as a 1 as well, saying, I'm less interested in other people or things than before.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think it's pretty true. I think sometimes and this maybe comes with being married too, sometimes I'd rather just be more involved at home, and I think going, before we got married, I was really engaged in a lot of different activities and kind of had my hand in a lot of different hats, and it kind of made it difficult because I was trying to do a lot and be there for a lot of people and kind of have a lot of relationships, and now I'm kind of like not as interested. And maybe it's not even as interested, but I just don't really have the time to be able to invest in it. And I kind of see that as a loss of interest, because if I really wanted to do something or spend time with someone or something, I'd probably make more time for it, like just think about it and find and make time for it, really. So.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe, like, with the loss of interest in those, relationships or activities that used to be in, do you think that you found maybe replacements to be more interested in, like maybe like being at home, being married, like?
Yeah, I think that could definitely be true.
Okay.
And I mean, I think just different interests change, and like, I mean, there's different things that I liked before I was married, that when I got married, it's not as interesting. And maybe that's just because when you get married, you just kind of realize maybe some more like the selfish tendencies you do, which shed light in a positive way, not necessarily like a loss of interest in a negative sense, but in a good sense that's kind of improving more on myself. So I didn't necessarily think it was that bad of a thing, but I definitely think there is a loss of interest for different things, but I think it's for a positive reason rather
maybe more
than
of like a interest shift.
Yeah, so I think you were definitely on the right mark when you were saying about that positive kind of shift rather than something that might just be like, oh, I just don't really care anymore.
Right.
Just more of a shift and change.
Interest. Okay, yeah. And I can see where, going back to what you said, maybe having a different interval for that, like maybe having a change of interest instead of because you're less interested in other people or things, and that might be true, but you're still interested in other things. So
yeah,
I get what you're saying there. All right, so the next one was indecisiveness, and you ranked this one as a 1 as well, saying, I find it more difficult to make decisions than usual.
Yeah, and I think that kind of pertains to the future, and right now I'm in the counselor education program at ECU, and there's just a lot of different fields you can go into. There's mental health, there's school, and there's school and student affairs and higher education. And to me, I just kind of weighing those a lot, and it's kind of, to me, hard to pick one because I just don't know which one would be a right fit.
Kind of predicting your future.
Yeah. Because, I think I worked in a school previously, and it was just a hard kind of situation, and administration was kind of lack of resources as well. So it kind of makes me fearful with school, even though I do like the age group, especially high school, and that's where I taught in. So I think it's just difficult because I'm like, well, is that going to be the same thing? And then I kind of weigh that decision, and I can go back and forth a lot about it. And then with higher, there's just kind of the same thing. I think it would be good to do it, but then what if I get there and it's just the same thing over and over, and then I don't like it?
Right.
So I think I have trouble, and that's the decision I was thinking of when I was kind of doing it. Is because I don't want to make a wrong decision, even though there isn't really a wrong decision. But maybe the best one for me, myself, and my family as well.
So maybe the indecisiveness, not so much the daily decisions that you make, but more decisions that impact your future.
Yeah.
Or what you're having. Okay.
Yeah, it's not, I don't really think of it like daily decisions, like, oh, should I go out to eat or should I stay in?
Right.
I think of it more as like big picture kind of things of like decisions that are tough to make and those hard to make decisions rather than picking one and being confident. I just kind of hesitate more.
Well, this one has I gotcha. Oops. All right, so the last one that on this inventory assessment that you ranked as higher than a 0 was your changing in sleep pattern. You ranked it a 1, and there were 2 choices, and you said I sleep somewhat less than usual.
Yeah. And I think that plays into the busyness of things and just having a lot going on. And just there's something that has to get cut in order to make time for everything. And I think that's oftentimes the thing that I cut when I should. Because, going back to school, it's like you go to school or work all day, and then you go to school all night, and then you have homework outside of that. So if I want to do some things I kind of have to sacrifice some sleep in order to do more of my stuff that I think's relaxing and kind of gets my mind off of the busyness. So I think I end up sleeping a little bit less. I don't think it's like drastically less, but I should probably sleep more than I should.
Yeah. Okay. But that makes sense. So just kind of busy schedule, sleep's the last.
Yeah, it's if I'm going to make a cut, I'll
done.
probably cut that first, which isn't necessarily a good thing.
So you're not losing sleep because of feelings of being sadness or being overwhelmed or agitation or any of the like indecisiveness or pessimism.
Mm.
Do you think those correlate with your loss of sleep or just kind of your busy schedule?
No, I think more so busy schedule. I mean, I think about those decisions, but I usually don't dwell on them for very long, at least when it comes to sleep. I'll go to sleep and then I'll think about it in the morning.
Got it tomorrow.
But I think it's more, like you were saying, relating to a busy schedule instead.
Okay. So that was, so based on, there are 21 questions that you answered, and each of them have a 0, 1, 2, or 3 answer choice. And so to kind of score this, you total up the number of points that you had. So you had 2 on the front page and 3 on the last page, so you had a total of 5. And the scale for this to kind of, because this is a depression inventory to see, like where you might fall with symptoms of depression. And 0 to 13 is correlated with minimal symptoms of depression, and you have a 5. So you're on the lower end of that scale. Okay?
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. So there's one more that I really wanted to talk to you about, which I think is really cool, and this might kind of, with some of those things about the big decisions that you're making about your future, stuff like that, this could actually be really helpful.
Okay.
The Myers-Briggs type indicator, and so you had to, answer all these questions. How'd this go for you?
Good. I thought it was bad to do. There were some questions where I'd go back and forth, like, well, sometimes I feel this way, but sometimes I feel this way.
Right.
But I don't think it was bad doing. I think it was pretty quick and easy, and only took like maybe 15 minutes. So
yeah.
it was nice.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna get this to you to take home today, but
okay.
I want to kind of go over some of these things with you just to see what you think about it. So, so the 4 letters that you received. So for E is extroversion, and so you scored. If you see the scale right here, you were slightly more towards extroversion than you were introversion. So you had 3 points going towards the extroversion. So that was your E, and so that means like focusing attention on the outer world of people and things more so than focusing inward, right?
Yeah.
So, and then for the next one, you have S. So, S is for sensing, over N is intuition. So you have 4 more points towards sensing. So that's taking in information through your 5 senses and focusing on the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 2, you had more of a larger curve towards. So you have T at next for thinking over feeling. So you like, making decisions based on facts and finding, more so than feeling-based decisions. And then the last one was judging, and you had a 6-point curve over perceiving. And judging is taking a planned and organized approach to life, making sure you have things settled over being like perceiving more flexible.
Okay.
So those are the 4 letters that, based on the questions that you answered that day, what best described you. And so what this packet is there's tons of things. So first things is characteristics. So ESTJ. So there's a list of characteristics on here. So like, for instance, likes making decisions based on logic, is considered with truth, principles, and justice, takes an objective approach, being decisive with the aim of being just and fair, focusing decisions on immediate considerations, so short-term costs, benefits, and the next step. Do you think that kind of describes you? Do any of those stand out to you?
Yeah, I think so. I think with I liked how you showed me the scale, because I thought for extroversion and introversion, I thought it was pretty close on those, and the scale was pretty close. Because I feel like sometimes I like being around people, but sometimes I want to do my own thing.
Right.
But I definitely see it with the thinking and judging. And at first I kind of thought judging was like a bad thing when it goes judging.
Being judgmental, yeah.
But I would say it is more... I am more like that. I think things through a lot, and that's kind of going back to the MBTI. I want to make sure I'm making the right decisions, or the best ones that I can possibly make.
Right.
And as well, just thinking about different things through a lot. My wife really wants a dog, and I want one too, but just thinking about the cost, and we're in a tiny apartment. So just kind of, it doesn't really fit right now, and also in our budget. But I do really want one, but I can see, because that, I think, fits well with, like, the thinking and judging a little bit more.
Yeah. Logistically, like, making sure you are able to have a dog, or, whatever that situation might be. So
yeah.
Being able to afford it and plan for all those things.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So the next part, so there's tons of information in here. So the next part is the ESTJ, so that's you, your strengths. So the three of them up the top are friendly, outgoing, and honest. I think those are kind of fair.
Yeah, I think
qualities.
So. I think so. I like to be out there and make people feel comfortable in different situations. So I think that would fit me.
Okay.
And I like to be honest. I want to be genuine with people instead of kind of putting on a false persona, or giving people the truth instead of kind of an honest opinion.
Sugarcoating something. Yeah.
Give them the truth, because sometimes people need to hear those things rather than, like, maybe a softer version.
Right.
As well, like, not being a jerk about it.
Just being honest.
And if they ask, I want to be honest instead of something else.
Right. I like that. So, one of the other parts I wanted to point out to you, so, again, there's tons of, like, things, like, an ESTJ's challenges, career choices, but or in finding satisfaction in careers. But another thing, back to when we were talking about, there's clinical mental health, there's college counselor, college advising, there's school counseling, all these all those options. So one of the things on here is common occupations include. So based on the scale, like your outcome, the ESTJ. Here's a huge list of common jobs found between people that have these same results. So right here it says that about 10 to 12% of the U.S. population has the same score as well. But there's tons of ideas that might kind of help you influence. So there's do you see any of that kind of stand out to you?
Yeah, I think definitely down here more with, like, the school principal and even the teacher, because I was a teacher already, and different things that I've thought about doing. I can definitely see, like, owner. I've definitely thought about trying to do owning my own business someday. I don't know what the idea is, but I mean, I think of different things throughout the day, so I think that one might be something that I've thought about in the past, so I could definitely see why. In school principal, I definitely have wanted and thought about doing more of the administration side, just because I'd like to see a good positive change.
Right.
In schools, because sometimes the way I feel about it is kind of going downhill a little bit, just in the way that stuff can be run sometimes, and I felt like I want to improve that a little bit. So I could definitely see those. And I mean, there's a lot of different other ones that at some point have crossed my mind.
Right.
So.
Well, cool. So you think that those kind of correlate with your outcome and your characteristics and thoughts and plans. You think there's a correlation between them?
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Awesome.
For sure.
Awesome. So, and then going back, so there's tons of like in groups or like working on a team characteristics that or scenarios that might be more likely with somebody with your outcome, like during changes and conflict. There's tons of information on here that I'll let you go through. And then there's actually kind of a cool story at the end. It's like called What It's Like to Be Me or What It's Like to Be You. So from the personality types, in the 4 that you chose, like the combination that you chose, like it talks about, like somebody like this likes to be organized, going on and on. There's lots of cool information on here.
Okay.
So
I'll definitely take a look at it.
Absolutely. So maybe that's all the time that we have for today.
Okay.
But I wanted to give you this. This is
Okay.
Your results, and then this is kind of just tells you. This goes back to the E stands for extrovert. It tells you, kind of describes more so, like especially like judging instead of being more judgmental. It's taking a look at having things planned and stuff like that. So I wanted to give this to you so you can take a better look at it over the next week.
Okay.
And we'll maybe go over it again, seeing how you're feeling about it, and maybe we can go from there and take a look, see where we're going from there. About those big future decisions and stuff like that.
That would be great.
Okay.
I would appreciate that.
Alrighty.
Awesome.
Alright, well I hope you have a good week.
Well, thank you. You too.
Alright.
Appreciate it.